Even if you don't like it, war has always been part of Britain and England's history. Join me, Fred Cooper, as we discuss yesterday's war front, today. For this episode of Yesterday's War Front Today, we will discuss the 100 Years' War and the War of Roses. During the Middle Ages, the monarchy's power relied heavily on the loyalty of its subjects or vassals. During the year 1337, the French king actually had the English king, Edward III, as his vassal. King Edward, having none of it, decided to claim the French lands as his own. The French lost heavily against the English, especially during the battles of Crécy and Poitiers, due to the fact that the English had a secret weapon, the Welsh longbow. To tell us more about the longbow, my twin brother, George Cooper, reporting from the war front in Crécy. George? Yes, Fred! The French are being butchered by arrows that blot out the sun! Since it's faster to reload arrows using the longbow, the French crossbow is outmatched. Back to you, Fred! That was my twin brother George. Hang in there, George. We'll teleport you to another location in a few minutes. The war continued throughout the 14th century, and in 1415, at the Battle of Agincourt, Henry V, King of England, massacred the French. The French were forced to sign a peace treaty allowing Henry V to marry Catherine, the French king's daughter. At this stage of the war, the French seemed to be losing, until a peasant girl named Joan, claiming to have had visions from God, inspired and led the French to a momentous victory in Orléans during the year 1429. This victory allowed the Dauphin, the crown prince of France, to be crowned king in Reims. In the year 1430, the English were able to capture Joan of Arc. Here's George again with an exclusive interview of the Maiden of Lorraine. George? Yes, Fred. We are in the dungeon where Joan of Arc is imprisoned. We have an exclusive interview with permission from the king himself. However, the guards warned me to tread lightly since she seems to be a raving lunatic.
Je ne parle pas anglais! Je ne parle pas anglais! Je ne parle pas anglais! Qu'est-ce que c'est?
And that was Joan of Arc saying she cannot speak English. Back to you, Fred. Thank you, George. That was enlightening. Anyway, at the last phase of the war, the French seemed to be winning this time. Having learned from their mistakes in the past, they pushed back the English and reclaimed the lands they had lost. The war ended after 116 years. So the 100 Years' War is actually a misnomer. It should be called the 116 Years' War. The 100 Years' War had different results, both for the English and the French. The French gained strength and unity, while the English suffered a civil war, which will later be called the War of the Roses. Henry VI was an infant when he claimed the throne in 1422. This period allowed various families to have great influence in England. During this time, the English royal family, the Plantagenets, was divided into two houses. One was the House of York, The other was the House of Lancaster. For 30 years, intermittent skirmishes between the Red Rose of Lancaster and the White Rose of York were fought on English soil. This war weakened the English nobility. 4 kings were rulers of England, and they were either deposed, murdered, or killed in battle. The fighting continued until 1485, when Henry Tudor, a Lancastrian, defeated King Richard III, the son of the Duke of York. Henry Tudor became King Henry VII, and he married Elizabeth of York, establishing the new House of Tudor. The House of Tudor will reign in England until 1603. This ends our coverage of the 100 Years' War and the War of Roses. From an experimental space-time continuum chamber underneath Cambridge University, this is Fred Cooper. See you next time in Yesterday's War Front Today.